Looking overseas to China, where married couples are now allowed to have up to 3 children. Announced on Monday, this major policy shift replaced a 2-child limit, which was put in place in 2016, and comes after census data showed a steady decline in the country's birth rates. Last year, only 12 million babies were born in China, the lowest in 6 decades. Its population growth also slumping to the least in official records dating back to the 1950s. Growth has slowed ever since the one-child policy was introduced in 1979. Penalties for violations included fines, loss of employment, and sometimes forced abortions. The policy also led to a severe gender imbalance in China owed to the traditional preference for boys. This new 3-child policy has to undo the decades-long one-child policy. But how far will it go in tackling the heart of China's population problem? To help us understand this, the Straits Times' associate editor Ravi Vellore joins me now. Welcome, Ravi. Ravi, what did you make of China's announcement that couples are now allowed to have 3 kids?
Well, Haryanto, as you know, this came out on the afternoon of Monday, after a Politburo meeting chaired by no less than the President Xi Jinping. And to the extent that it reverses 4 decades of policy, it started with the one-child policy announced in 1980, shortly after China went in for economic reforms, opened up the economy and all that. And today, to say that, where it was one child before, and sometimes quite strictly imposed. There were cases of forced abortions and all that, which got a lot of negative publicity for China back in the day. And to move from that position to the current, which is to say that 3 children are allowed or even encouraged, I think that is a major step for China. It's a different matter whether it will work. But to the extent that the Chinese are signaling that they want more children, to me, it sort of transmits a sense of worry about the declining numbers, at least the declining birth rates, which could potentially affect China in many ways.
Right. Ravi, in 2016, China allowed people to have 2 kids. Mm-hmm. So we had the one-child policy, and then in 2016 there is that attempt to reverse that with the 2-child policy, yet the fertility rate remains stuck at 1.3. What are the limitations to this 3-child policy then?
Well, to just give you a bit of background, in 2013 the dependency ratio in China tilted, meaning that there were compared with the productive population, the non-productive population had tended to increase more than those in the productive age group. That was the first signal. It's called dependency ratio in demographics. And with that tilted, and China tweaked its policy at that point. What it said was, look, if the husband comes from a one-child family, if the wife comes from a one-child family, then you can have 2 children. But in 2016, they went further on that, and they said any family, regardless of whether the children were born in one-child or 2-child families, could now have 2 children. Well, it didn't seem to work because, as you said, the birth rate was stuck. The total fertility rate was stuck at 1.3. And so now they're trying to go even further down the line. But the reasons why even the 2-child policy did not work are centered in the Chinese ecosystem, principally the expenses of bringing up a child. In urban China, I think having a child and rearing a child is one of the most expensive places in the world to have a child, is in China today. And it's related to a whole lot of things, including workplace issues, the ambitions of women in China, the need for a sense of self-fulfillment, And issues like, as the gig economy comes, uncertainties around the gig economy, there's a whole lot of reasons behind it.
Right. So with that said, Ravi, then what would it take to make this policy a success?
Well, to begin with, the signaling is not bad, and I think it's a positive thing. But it has to be followed up on the ground with a whole lot of things, starting with fixing what I said, about childcare, education, making sure that a parent wants to bring a child into the world in today's China with all its attendant issues, starting with the cost of childbearing, workplace issues like HR managers, who don't look too kindly on women taking maternity leave because they don't want that expense. So I think having announced this policy, I think Beijing needs a lot of follow-up action. It could even be imposing HR policies like, maybe even insisting on a promotion for a woman who brings in a third child into the world. Because, right now women are a little reluctant because they don't want their career paths to be affected by multiple child births and maternity leave and so on. So to remove the issues surrounding that would be one thing, so it's a whole lot of things that China has to do, and I think they have to start moving it very quickly to produce any decent results, because already the median age of China has exceeded that of the United States. And for China, that's a very tricky number because of this whole geopolitical contest with the United States. They don't want to be an older people than the American people, you see. So that's one small reason. And, it relates to a whole lot of other things like markets, because, if there are more older people, they are reluctant to spend. And ultimately, that comes back into the economy's performance as consumption dips. And so it's a whole lot of things, and China, as I said, has its work cut out.
So are you seeing a more incentive-based approach?
Well, they should. They better do it.
Right?
They really better do it. Yeah, because otherwise it's not going to work. I mean, as somebody said, look, I read it on one of the online posts, I'm not buying 3 Rolls Royces because the government doesn't allow me to, I mean, I thought that was a very telling quote, yeah.